Okay, so how about the reliability? Let's call on, sorry Eileen and Sarah. Siguro kayo na lang tatawagin kong dalawa. Just kidding. Let's call on Eileen. Reliability, reliable.
So, a database should be reliable because yun nga, yung center natin is yung data and the processes would be disturbed or magkakaroon ng problems in the processes if the data is not reliable.
Okay, so it should be reliable because, for example, no, I would like uh, to retrieve, no, or to know, no, about the average height of um, these high school players, no? Kasi I'm a coach of the college, then I would like to know if these high school players, no, have this average height, no, something like that, no, and then it would say the average height is um 6'7", for example, no, that's the average height. Pero when I check it manually, no, try to know the height, no, of the players, it would say 5'7". It's not 6'7", but 5'7". So it's not reliable and it's not accurate also. Okay, and then maybe later on, it will be prone to errors, something like that, no? Okay, and of course, no, reliability also, no, when we have this database in terms of in a hospital setting, diba? In a hospital setting, no? Just imagine if the data that you have there on your databases, no, is not accurate and reliable. Maybe it can cost lives as well, no? And easy to use, no, easy to use. Let us call on Katleya. Wala, no? Siguro may problem talaga about the connectivity of Katleya. Alright. Sige, Eileen?
So, a database should be easy to use kasi prior dun sa mismong database, yung processes, prior dun sa difficulty ng processes na meron ng isang company or during a project, hindi na dapat tayo namumroblema kung paano natin makuha yung data sa database. Ganun.
Yes, very good. Dapat, no, that is not our problem anymore, no? When we try to retrieve, no, the data, okay, it should not be our problem anymore, no? So dapat na resolve na yon beforehand. Okay? Kasi maybe not all of the users are technically inclined, or they do not have a privilege, no, to conduct otherwise. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the first step in database design is to determine, no, the requirements of the database. Okay? So that is the first step, to determine the requirements of the database. No? It involves understanding the types of data that need to be stored. No? So, di ba, earlier I was able to mention that the data should be able, you should have the ability to store, no, the data. No? Now, the relationships between different data objects and the operations that will be performed on the data. No? So, it's not a simple task, okay, but it can be done as well. No? This information is used to create a conceptual data model that defines the data objects, relationships, and constraints. Again, data objects, relationships, and constraints. All right. Okay. All right. The next step is for us to create a logical data model, no? Which is a more detailed representation of the conceptual data model. It involves defining the tables, columns, and relationships between them. No? As what I've said, we can have this as a tabletop exercise. No? okay, as well as specifying any constraints or rules that govern the data. Sometimes in the tabletop exercise, it involves those people that have different roles. So once the logical data model has been created, it should be translated, or it is translated into a physical data model. So later we can have this as an example. This involves selecting the database management system that will be used to implement the database, and creating a set of tables and columns columns that can be used to store the data. No? All right. So we have 3 steps. No. Okay. This is the 30 step, or the final step in the database design. Is to test and optimize the database. No? Before you deploy it, it should be tested and optimized. No? This involves performing various tests to ensure that database is functioning correctly and making any necessary changes to improve performance and efficiency. Now, let me ask, why do we need to um, optimize or test the database rather before we before we deploy them? Sarah?
Yes, sir. Because we need to optimize a database before its actual deployment, because we need to make sure that the system is working well, not only if it's working well, if it's fast and if it's responsive, if it's doing the functions that it's expected to do.
Okay. Thank you very much for your insights. Yes, indeed, di ba? Before, kahit ano naman yan, sa Eileen, wala pala sa Eileen. Before in anything we do naman in terms of information technology, before we deploy it, before we use it, we need to be able to test them, no, if they are functioning well, or if they are really indeed, no, work for our environment. No? Yung ibang companies, meron silang testing environment, meron silang production environment. Definitely, hindi mo yan iti-test sa production environment, no? Baka kasi it would not be good, no, on the actual production itself, no? Pag nagkaganon, maybe the whole system or the whole organization might be affected, no? So the goal of a database design, ladies and gentlemen, is to create here is to create a database that is accurate, reliable, and easy to use. No, we were able to mention that. No, and then we need to follow the design process. No, and this design process, if we may call it this way, it is structured. No? It is possible to create a database that meets the requirements of the users and the organization. No, this you are designing, or you are designing a database that is not only on your prerogative. Kasi baka kasi, uy, need natin ito no? Ito yung design na gusto ko, no? For example, no? But without asking the organization or without asking the stakeholders. No? If that is the case, that is your database only, no? Something like that, no? And then this design provides a solid foundation for managing the data in a meaningful way. That's why it's very important for you to conduct an interview, no, not only on the stakeholders, but also of the major users of the company itself. No? All right. Okay, so let's proceed with the data modeling. Yan. This is the definition that is being provided by the university. But let me just explain that. No? So data modeling, guys, this is a technique, or this maybe we call this as a process, no, of creating a conceptual representation of data objects. The relationships, you have an object. What are the relationships, and that what do you call that? The rules that govern them, no. So it is a fundamental, no, basic fundamental basic step, no, in the database design process, no? And this is an essential for developing a database that accurately reflects the requirements of the users and organization. So let us re-emphasize that the requirements that we need are from the users and the organizations, and not the requirements of the designers or the programmers or the project managers. No, not like that. No? So there are several different types of data models. No, it includes the ER model, no, or the entity relationship. I forgot the UML, or the Unified Modeling Language. Okay, these models use different notations, no, to represent data objects, relationships, and constraints. In the previous courses that you had, no, you were able to learn this, no, about the different notations. But we will be going back that later on. So the basic building block of data model is the entity. No? So I do not know if you still remember the entity, no? Which represents a person, okay, a thing, a place, or a concept, no, that is relevant to the organization. No? So ano nga ba yung yung entities? These are represented by what? Anybody? Okay, if you forgot, these are being represented as rectangles, no, in ER models and as a classes in UML models. Okay, anyhow, relationships, guys, no, between entities are represented by lines. No? So, di ba, dapat in between entities, there is a relationship, no? Parang ano lang yan, no? Kung in a real relationship, dapat there is a open line, kumbaga, di ba? Without an open line, maybe the relationship would not work. Something like that, no? So the same thing with this. Relationships between entities are represented by lines in entity relationship models and by associations in UML models. So these relationships can be what? Ano yung mga yon? Anybody? Eileen? These relationships can be, what are those? Nandiyan ba si Eileen? Are you there, Eileen?
Sir, kakasali ko lang po. Can
Okay,
you
sige.
repeat the question?
Alright, kasasali mo lang ulit. Sige, sige. Now, di ba sabi natin, yung entities, no? We have entities, these are represented by, which represents a person, place, or thing, or concept, di ba? Something like that, no? Now, we have also relationships, no? Yung relationships between entities, no? These are being represented by lines and by associations in UML models, or unified modeling language. No? So in these relationships, this can be, I do not know if, I believe you were able to discuss this in the past na naman, di ba? These relationships can be, let me give you an example, one-to-one. Okay, what's the next one?
One to many or many to many.
All right, very good. One to many or many to many, and can be either mandatory or optional. No? Yan. So one to many, or many to many. Okay, very good, Eileen. So constraints naman are rules that govern the relationships between entities. This can include business rules, data validation rules, and referential integrity constraints. No? So rules are very important. No. Not only in business but also for this data modeling or the database design. Okay, so they are represented by various symbols in both ER and UML models. So later on you will see that. So the process of data modeling involves several steps. No? The first step is to identify the entities and their relationships. So, lagi naman yun yung una, di ba? We need to be identify, okay, what are the entities, and of course, if these are entities, what are their relationships? No? So, for example, no, a teacher with the students, no, um, or a faculty member with the course, or um, or teaching load with the professor, something like that. No, okay, this is typically done through discussions with stakeholders and by analyzing existing data sources. No, when we say existing data sources, the current, no, the existing one, no, that you can be able to find in the company itself. No, how can you be able to know these data sources? Definitely, you should conduct an interview, no, with the stakeholders. That's why it's very important that you know right away who are these stakeholders. No? So once the entities, guys, no, and relationships have been identified, the next step is to create a conceptual data model that represents the relationships between the entities. This model is used to validate the requirements of the users and the organization. No? That's why you cannot be able to design a database or the data modeling itself if you do not have any contact with the organization. Just imagine this. No? Um, minsan ganun no? Nagdi-design yung mga estudyante, no? So for example, they will design with the um, um, hospital information system, no? The database of that. No, and then once I asked them, no, if they did go to the hospital itself, try to interview it, and then they will say they said no. No? So if that is the case, that is quite impossible because the first thing that you need to do is to immerse yourself to that particular hospital. No? So the conceptual data model, guys, no, is then translated into a logical data model. So how can we do that? Well, it includes more details about the entities, attributes, and their relationships. No. So when we say attributes, these are characteristics of the entities, no, or these are characteristics of the entities. This model is used to validate the data model and ensure and we need to ensure no that is accurately represents the requirements of the users and the organization. So if you were listening no, to our discussion no, minutes ago, lagi nating sinasabi that your database or the design itself should represent no you should represent the requirements of the users and the organization and not by the designer. Okay, so the logical data model, guys, no, is translated into a physical data model. So this is being recorded pala, guys, no, para later on this could be a reference of yours, no. So which is used to implement the database in a specific DBMS or the database management system. No? So it involves selecting the appropriate data types, defining the tables and columns, and creating any necessary indexes and constraints. No? So imagine this, no? So if you failed in the database design, no? Try to imagine what would happen to your database, no? So mas maganda na medyo nagtatagal tayo ng konti in terms of designing of our databases, no? Rather than pabalik-balik tayo, no? Pabalik-balik tayo. Dapat sobrang inaaral at sobrang inaalam mo ang requirements ng mga stakeholders. So again, data modeling, this is an essential step in the database design process that helps to ensure that the resulting database accurately reflects the requirements of the users and the organization. Okay? So, yeah. All right. Okay, so we have an example here, no? So we have an ERD here, okay? All right. But let me explain this one, ERD. So ERD, guys, no? It stands for Entity Relationship Diagram, no? So if you take notice on the image itself, uh, it is a graphical representation of the data model, no? So what you can see there, no? It shows you the entities, no? Attributes, and then relationships between different data objects, no? So ERD is one of the most commonly used techniques for designing databases, no? Specifically relational databases, no? Yan. So, uh, the basic building blocks of an ERD are the following. No? We have the entities. No? It's there. No? Okay. Attributes. And of course, the relationships. No? So as what I've mentioned in the previous slides, when we say entity, this is a person, place, or thing, or concept that is relevant to the organization. So you have their uh, customer, order, and product. Okay? All right. Now, attributes, guys, no? These are characteristics of the entities, such as name, age, or address, no? Relationships are the associations between entities, no? So, for example, you have a customer, and then maybe you can put it there, customers, no? Customer Alan, customer Eileen, customer Sarah, customer Ben, etc., etc. No? Okay? Now, ERDs, guys, no? These are typically representing using set of symbols. No? So entities are represented by rectangles. Yan. You have the rectangles, attributes by ovals, okay, and relationships by lines. Okay? The symbols are labeled with the name of the entity or attribute they represent. So if you take notice on our image, there are several types of relationships that can be represented in our ERD. No? So the most common are one-to-one, okay? One-to-many and many-to-many relationships. No? So yan. Okay? Pero syempre, in a real setting, we would like to have a one-to-one relationships. Di ba, Eileen?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much for that answer, no? Yeah, one-to-one relationships. Okay? All right. So, in a one-to-one relationship, no? Each entity in one table is associated with only one entity in another table. No? So, yeah. So, for instance, um For instance, if you are a part-timer and then you are only allowed to be given one course in a semester, no, that could be a one-to-one, no, relationship, no, kasi one uh, one course, one professor for um, one semester. Sige. All right. Later on, once I'm done in giving you the description of these um, types of relationships, I would ask you, no, to give me or to give us an example with regards to this, no? Yan. When we say naman in a one-to-many relationship, each entity in one table is associated with one or more entities in another table. In a many-to-many relationship, okay, each entity in one table is associated with multiple entities in another table and vice versa. No? Okay, so I'm done in describing these relationships. It's time for you to give me an example of each relationship. No? So I'll give you um, I'll give you not right. It's up to you to choose what relationship that you would like to have to give as an example, no? So let's start with Sarah para pabaliktad naman tayo, no? So Sarah, please.
Hi, sir.
Okay,
Sir, if
yeah.
we use
Okay.
this example,
What?
if I may use this example on the screen, is that okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Right. So from this ERD, sir, what it tells us is the customer can have only one record for the customer, but the customer can place 0 to many orders. And then for the product can have one or many records of orders. And then the orders can have 0 to many records of orders for a particular product.
Thank you. Thank you for that one. How about Eileen? Siyempre, definitely you cannot be able to use the example that Miss Syra was able to mention.
Again, sir, we will give an example of relationships.
Yeah, it's up to you to choose among the three that I have mentioned.
So, the first example, hindi siya, pero siguro, when there is a speaker, it is one to many. Like, we have one speaker and the audience represents the people. Yun, sir.
Sige, okay lang. Alright, so the example that Eileen mentioned, okay, speaker to the audience. Definitely, no, when you do have a speaker, definitely, ano siya, di ba? Posible namang isa lang yung ano niya, audience niya, no? So, one, two men. Alright, sige. How about the other gentlemen? How about the gentlemen? Okay? Wala? Sige. So, kung magbibigay tayo ng grades, it is only concentrated on the two ladies. Just kidding. So, you can be able to answer it later on naman. Okay, so, guys, no, when we say ERDs, no, we are just describing it, no, so that we could be able to understand better. No, ERDs are useful for many purposes. No, so one is to identify the relationships between different data objects. No, so it can help identify how entities are related to each other and how they can be grouped together. No, so di ba yung pag-explain nga o pagsabi nga ni Sarah with regards to the customer, the order, and the product. No? Okay, so ERD as well, it helps to visualize the database structure. So ERDs provide a visual representation of the database structure, which ano ba tawag doon? It is much easier to understand and communicate. Yeah. So it also helps us to validate the data model. ERDs can be used to validate the data model and ensure it is accurately reflects the requirements of the users and the organization. Di ba yun yung purpose natin? Is for us to have an accurate and it should reflect the requirements of the users and the organization. Kasi kung hindi ganon, even though it will be designed tawag dito uh, uh, 100% good, but without the consent or without having it would not reflect the requirements of the users and the organizations, parang baliwala din, no? All right, so designing the database schema, guys, it was mentioned last time around. ERDs also can be used to design the physical database schema by translating the logical data model into a set of tables, columns, and constraints. So let us just repeat what we have said for the last minutes. The ERD or the entity relationship diagram, this is a powerful tool for designing and visualizing the relationships between data objects in a database. No? It helps to create a conceptual representation of the data model, which can be used to design the physical database schema and ensure that it is accurately reflects the requirements of the users and the organization. No? Okay. All right. Have you heard about system thinking? Or system thinking or system concepts? Okay.
Narinig na po pero hindi pa ganun ka
All right.
explain.
System thinking, no? Okay. Okay, so system concept, systems thinking, according to this definition, this is the application of formal systems theory and concepts to the systems problem solving. So the ERD depicts data in terms of entities and relationships described by the data. No? But if you will ask me, system concepts, guys, no, it refers to the fundamental principles and concepts that can be considered, or maybe we can say underpin the design and operation of computer-based information systems. No? So maybe you've heard about logical thinking, no, computerized thinking, something like that. No? Okay. So these concepts or this system concepts, no? Okay, these are essential to understanding how computer systems work. No? Kahit ano naman i-ano natin sa field of computing, di ba? So for example, in information assurance and security, in database design, in data modeling, in graphics, okay, whatever it is, no, in terms of computing, okay, we should be able to understand, no, how computer systems work, no, and then how they can be able to design, no, to meet the needs of the users and organizations, no? So if you take notice, guys, no, kahit pagbabalik rin natin, kahit anong field pa yan, etc., kahit ano pang sabihin natin, no, so at the end of the day, we should be able to reflect, not only to reflect, but to meet the needs of the users and organizations. Okay? All right? So, when we say system concepts, okay, ano ba yung mga naiisip nyo, guys? No? Para lang ano tayo. We are in the same page. Ano po ba yung mga naiisip natin when we say system concepts? Or maybe we can say systems thinking. Okay? Or what do you think, no ba? Paano ba nagpro-process ang computing? Okay? Ako, guys, no, lagi kong tinatanong yan, no. Paano nga ba nagpro-process itong mga to, no? So, in a way, if they cannot be able to articulate, no, how a computer works, okay, paano siya nag-work, okay, definitely, okay, maybe you cannot be able to work on other fields for that matter. The same thing with you. Let me ask you. Yeah. Katleya, let me go back to you nga, Katleya. Where are you?
Disconnect po ata.
Na-disconnect? Oo, pero, yeah, oo. Sige. So, ilan na lang tayo dito ngayon?
5 na lang po.
5 na lang tayo, no? Yan, si Ben, no? Si Ben, absenan kaya kita, Ben. Ben, nandiyan ka pa?
Hello, sir. Yes.
Yes, go ahead. Yan, nabuhay tayo. Yeah, go ahead, please. Systems thinking or system concepts. Can you please give an example? Paano ba nagpo-process yung computer mo?
Sir, there is a type of computation, sir, that goes in the computer to the CPU. Then it will process data and different types of programs that will run once the computer is on.
Okay, sige. Thank you very much for that. All right, so, di ba meron tayong IPO, no? IPO. Ano nga ba yung IPO? Do you know what stands for, Sarah? IPO?
Ano ba siya, sir? Information Technology Office?
not I not ITO, IPO. IPO, India Papa Oscar.
Input process output.
Ano, sir? IPO.
Okay.
Oh, ikaw, Sarah. Sige. Not ITO, no? Not Information Technology Office in JRU. Sige, anyhow, ano naman yan? IPO, yes, indeed. May nagsabi, I don't know kung si Eileen o si Sarah din. It
Eileen.
stands for, Eileen.
IPO pala.
It stands for Input Process Output. Diba? Yan. So, parang it's a basic thing, basic functions wherein input refers to the data or information that is entered into the system, no? Process itself, no? Yung manipulation of data, and the output, whatever the process of the input, no, should be output, no. This is the result that are produced by the system. Sometimes there are mathematical outputs also. So the other thing, you have there the feedback, no, feedback mechanism, maybe in terms of visual display or audible alert or other types of notifications. 'Di ba kayo guys, 'di ba? Every time sa Facebook, 'di ba? Every time may nag-update, no? Nag-update si uh, yung fina-follow nyo, no? For example, nag-update siya. 'Di ba? May mga notification 'yon, no? So that can be one form of feedback also, no? And then of course, you have also the control, no? Control, maybe this ano ang tawag doon? This can include also the features, no? As what we mentioned in the previous slide, the access controls, no, yung authentication method, by giving permissions, this can be a control also, no? So of course, memory, no? Yung non-volatile memory natin. So do you know that every time we open an application, it will go temporarily, no? Temporarily to the memory, no? That's why pag nagkaroon ng raid, okay? And then even though ang tawag dito, even though you close that particular application or that particular file, but you were not able to ang tawag doon, you were not able to turn it off, no? Okay? So huli ka pa rin. Why? Because that particular open file, no, has been temporarily put there in the memory. Okay? But of course, definitely, if your machine has been turned off, definitely the open file in the memory will not be there anymore once it is being it is being turned on. And of course, communication, the user interface, and the system architecture. So when we say system interface, yun yung mga parang yung ang tawag doon, yung GUI natin or yung GUI natin, like menus, buttons, and other graphical interfaces, no, graphical elements, no, and then of course the input devices like keyboards and mouse, no. Okay? Ayan. So the way you think should mimic whatever the system concepts that you have, something like that, no? Okay, so when you do design the database, not only the not only the not only the security would be considered, but also the system concepts, no? Okay? Sige. All right? Okay. Ayan. So let's proceed with the entity, no? So yan, it says there, the entity is something about which we want to store data. No? So we mentioned that a while ago, di ba? So sabi natin, it refers to persons, places, concepts, objects, events, or which we need to capture in story data. No? So in the context of databases and data modeling, when we say entity, this is a specific object or concept that that may be or can be represented in a database. No? So we mentioned that a while ago, no? And then you've noticed it also in the actual ERD that I was able to give to you or display it to you, no? So an entity can be anything from a physical object like a product, customer, okay? This can be a transaction also. Okay, so these are represented by tables in a database, and each table contains a set of related data. No? So let me give you an example. No? So if you were designing a database for a retail business, no? So how many of you have businesses? May mga businesses ba kayo? Sarah, do you own a business ba?
Wish ko, sir, pero wala.
Yan, wish naman. Alright, so how about the others? I guess, parang si Ben last 2 years ago na-mention na may business. Is it true until now, Ben? So anyhow, baka ano lang. No? Sige. Alright.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, nung last nagka-business po kami noon nung last I think the previous election, sir. Pero ano siya, parang stall lang siya, parang we were selling sandwiches, donuts po. Parang ganong business pa.
Wow. That's very good. Okay. So for example, no, if we are designing or if you were designing a database, no, for this business, okay, so you might identify, no, identify entities, no, like ano ba yung mga yon? What are those? Maybe we can have a customer, di ba? Okay, that can be one, no? Product, okay? So yung inaano nila stall, no? Anong product nyo, Ben?
Food, sir.
Food.
Beverages.
Oo. Okay.
Yes.
Hotdog. Ganon. May hotdog stand. Popcorn.
Donuts, sir.
Yeah, donuts. Yeah. Sige. Okay. That can be the product, no? And of course, order, no? Kasi kung walang order, no, malulugi. Something like that, no? Imaginein mo, no? Yes, indeed, may customer, pero may product, no? Pero yung customer naman hindi mo order, something like that, no? So how can the business would be able to survive, no? So each of these entities would have specific attributes that describe them, no? So for example, okay, can you give I would not call you, but you can recite if you would like to, no? For example, yung customer, di ba? Yung we identified that as one of our entities, no? Ano kaya yung mga attributes niya? Anybody? Or
Sir.
what? Go ahead.
Ano, sir? Name?
Name.
Location also, pwede.
Yes. Okay. Name, location, or maybe the address, di ba?
Yes, sir. Email
yes,
address.
Email address, yes. What else? Maybe we can consider also the phone number. How about gender? Can we consider it as as attribute?
Yes, sir, pwede. It depends on the business. If they will be targeting gender specific sa kanilang campaigns, they can also collect gender.
Yes, gender. Very good, no? How about favorite color?
Parang hindi na, sir.
Pwedeng hindi na. So, definitely not all attributes, no? Nawawala-wala pala si si Eileen. Sige. So definitely not all attributes should be included, di ba? Kasi yes, indeed, yung gender, no? Siguro pwede natin since donut, no? Gusto natin tignan later on, no? Kasi gusto natin maging data driven yung decision natin later on, no? Gusto natin tignan kung sino bang mas maraming, anong tawag dito? Mas maraming, um, mas mahilig kumain ng donut, no? Yung mga lalaki ba or babae, no? For instance, no? Kasi indeed, maybe our next campaign, no, for this particular donut would concentrate on that particular gender. No? Kaya gusto rin natin kunin yung particular attribute na yon, no? Etc. No? Okay? So entities, guys, can be related to each other through relationships. No? We've said that. No? For example, an order entity might be related to both customer and product. No? So something like that, indicating that an order is placed by customer for a specific product. So, kunwari, di ba yung mga donuts, may iba, ano man tawag doon? May iba't ibang, I'm sorry may Bavarian, ano ang tawag doon? Classification ba? Or sino mahilig sa donuts yan? Sarah, mahilig ka ba sa donut?
Carry lang, sir. Parang flavor or variant. Ganyan.
Ayan, tama, variant. Yes, Ben, go ahead. You're raising your hand.
Yes, sir. Opo. Yung mga different types of donuts.
Yan,
Yung
types of
Bavaria.
donuts, variants. Okay, very good, no? Ayan. Okay, so, ayun, no? So, in order to model entities and their relationships, designers use tools like the ERDs, no? Or the entity relationship diagrams. ERDs use symbols, as what I've said, ERDs use symbols to represent entities. So we were able to discuss that, no? So, actually, we had that as an example. Okay? So, entities are a fundamental concept in a database design and are essential to creating a well-organized and effective database. Okay, so let's proceed with attributes naman. No? So we were able to discuss the entities in detail. So let's discuss the attributes naman in detail. No? So as you have seen here on this particular slide that has been provided by Jose Rizal University, an attribute is a descriptive property or a characteristic of an entity. No, it is synonymous to element, property, and field. No, so a compound attribute consists of more primitive attributes. But let me just discuss that in detail. No, okay. So attributes, guys, no, are characteristics or properties that describe an object or entity. No, the example that we have cited yung name, yung customer, di ba? Definitely, yung customer dapat may name, dapat may address, dapat may gender, dapat may age, no? Because these attributes later on can be considered, no, on our next campaign or on our product itself. No? Okay, so these characteristics, no, if I may say so, are used in various fields, no, okay, including programming. Okay, di ba, in Visual Basic, no, I do not know if you were able uh, to to develop a program in Visual Basic. Okay, this can be uh, uh, this can be used through the dot programming, no? So you will just put dot and the attribute itself, okay, to be used in that programming language, no? And then of course mathematics and statistics, no? So in R we can have that also, no? So I do not know if you still remember, but in programming, an attribute can be thought of as a variable, no? And that is associated with an object. So for example, if you have an object representing a person, attributes might include their name, the age, the height, and the weight. No? So parang ano, no? Parang pag sinabi mo na weight, discriminatory, no? Lalong-lalo na sa ladies. Kayo ba, ladies, do you like to talk about your weight? Just kidding. How about you, Sarah? Do you like to talk about your weight?
Sir, ano kasi ako due to my Chinese blood, medyo petite talaga ako, kaya hindi ako medyo
Oh,
sensitive doon. Pero
hindi
speaking
kasi.
for the general population
Ah,
of women, I
ah,
think dapat hindi na.
hindi na. Right. Okay, sige. That's why I'm very careful of it. Din naman. All right. Okay, now, um, di ba, you were able to have an OOP courses, di ba? In JRU also, no? So when we say OOP, these attributes are often used as part of a class definition, no? So yeah. And then attributes also, in terms of mathematical and statistical models, it is describing the characteristics of a data set, no? So yung regression model, no? Attributes might include variables such as age, income, and educational level, no? So yeah. So yeah. Attributes, guys, no? So when we see attributes, these are fundamental concepts in many fields, no? So many fields such as mathematics, statistics, in programming, even in economics, no? So they are used to describe the characteristics of objects and entities in a structured and organized way, no? Kasi parang ano tayo, no? Parang bulag tayo when we do not have those anong tawag doon? Those characteristics. Just imagine, no? A form without the name. Nakakita na ba kayo ng ganun? Na bibigyan ka ng form tapos walang name? Nakakita na ba kayo ng ganung form? Anybody?
Wala pa, sir.
Wala pa, no? Kasi parang ano, no? Parang weird naman. Bibigyan ka form, walang name, no? Or address, something like that, no? So parang basic na basic 'yon, no? If you say that thing. Okay? Sige. All right. Okay, so attribute identification naman, guys, no? Ayan. And every entity must have an identifier or key, 'di ba? Pwedeng yun, you have the identifiers, etc. You have the concatenated key there. You have the primary key, the foreign key, etc., etc. No? So attribute identification. This is the process of determining, no, the the relevant attributes or characteristics of an object or entity that are not important, important, okay, for a particular analysis or task. So we call this process, or this process is commonly used in data analysis, where it is important to identify the variables or features that are most relevant to a particular problem. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so when we say relationships, no, let's go to relationship, no? Okay. I know that all of you can be able to relate into a relationship because each one of us have relationships, no? Okay, maybe not romantic, but we have a relationship with our siblings, we have a relationships with our parents, with our best friends, with our professors, with our friends, etc., etc. No, so I hope you could be able to relate on that. No, so ano naman, no? In the previous slides, we were able to discuss that anyhow. No, relationships, no, refer to the connections or associations between objects, entities, or variables. Diba sabi natin, we can be able to relate through lines. No? So relationships are a fundamental concepts in many fields. So ang dami, no? So like mathematics, the comsci or the computer science, and including data science, no? Kayo ang tawag is business analytics, di ba? Pero do we have ano na ba in JRU? Correct me if I'm wrong, if we have BS data science already. Meron na po ba tayo ng ganun sa JRU? Data science?
Comsci, sir, wala. Pero we have business analytics majors.
Business analytics majors. Right. Yes, indeed, no? Yan, computer science and social sciences. So, including data science. Yan. And most likely naman, almost, not almost, but all of the courses that you have in business analytics would relate or would lead to data science also, no? Yeah. Okay, so when we say data science naman, it involves analyzing data. Yeah. It involves also developing models And of course, making decisions. No? Diba? Kanina, sabi ko, we should have a data-driven, ano ba sinabi ko? Data-driven decisions. Diba? Every time we decide, no, it should be based on data. No? If you take notice sa mga local governments, before they decide, they should be able to collect, no, the data itself. Without data, they could not be able to decide accordingly. Okay? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So let's go to cardinality. So it says there, no, cardinality defines the minimum and maximum number of occurrences, no? Etc. But for us, cardinality refers to the number of elements in a set or the number of relationships between two sets of objects, no? So it is a fundamental concepts in mathematics, no? Set theory. Okay? And then of course, this can be also applicable in the database design, no? So it is very important, no, to that we need to mention in terms of database design. It is very important that we need to mention cardinality, no? It is very important for us to understand, no, because it involves analyzing data and designing, no, efficient database systems, right? So in mathematics we have the set theory, no? Yeah. But we would not mention it here. Okay, so in database design, cardinality is used to describe the relationships between tables. Okay? The most common types of cardinality in database design ay yung one-to-one, no? Cardinality. Okay, so a relationship where each element in one set is associated with only one element in other set and vice versa. No? So for example, let me give you an example. No? Each person in a database may have only one social security number. No? So for example, ako, no, in terms of SSS account, I have only one social security number. No? Okay, and then of course, since I'm a government employer now, I have also a GSIS number. No? That particular SS number would not be connected to another person. Okay, and etc. No? And that social security number, no, or GSIS number may be associated with only person. Just imagine this. If this if this one particular security number, no, or social security number, SSS number, no, is associated or is related to another person also, no? So, ibig sabihin, yung social security number has been associated to two individuals, no? So, imagine what is the impact of that. All right? The other one is one-to-many, no? Cardinality, no? So, a relationship where each element in one set is associated with one or more elements in the other set. But each element in the second set is associated with only one element in the first set. No? So let us just give an example for this. So a customer in a database may have many orders. Okay? But each order is associated with only one customer. Okay? All right. So just to give you the example of Ben, yung donut. Okay? So for example, Sarah, no? May have many orders, no? Ang daming variants, no? Kasi gusto niya maraming variants of donuts. Yeah. Pero yung order na nun, okay, siya lang yung umorder, no? Is associated with only one customer, no? Something like that. Okay? The next one is many to many, no? Cardinality, no? So this one is a relationship where each element in one set is associated, no, with one or more elements in the other set and vice versa. No? So let us give an example. a student in a database may be enrolled in many courses, no? And each course may have many students enrolled. Okay? Something like that. No? So again, yung student, yung estudyante, no? Okay, naka-enroll sa iba't ibang mga courses. No? Each course, kunyari, itong course na to, meron tayong 7 students. Okay, so something like that, no? So many to many. So we have given, yeah. Okay. Yan, yung cardinality, no? Okay, so let's have the foreign key, no? All right. But before that, can we have since we are until 9:30 pa naman, no? Can we have a break of 15 minutes siguro? So that you can take your dinner if you wish to. Okay lang?
Okay, sir.
Sige, sige. Let's us have 15 minutes break. Let's be back exactly 7:16 p.m. Thank you. You don't need to you don't need to go out of the Zoom conference call. We will just be I'll magmi-mute lang ako, na? Thank you. Okay, good evening. I notice ilan na lang tayo ha. Ano ba tayo? Konti na nga lang tayo eh. Ilan na ba tayo? Hello, nandiyan na kayo? Ben, Eileen, and Sarah. Siguro later on, I hope you, can you hear me na ba?
Yes, sir. Yes po.
Yes, sir. Siguro later on, yung mga wala, no? We will be marking them absent na lang din, no? Since they did not stay. Sige, thank you, Sarah, Eileen, and Ben, no? For staying. So let's continue, no? So can you see it now ba yung yung PDF file? Foreign keys, no? Okay, so di ba, we've heard about the primary key, etc. No, but in database design, a foreign key is a field or set of fields in one table that refers to the primary key in another table. No, so maybe on that particular table, it is not the primary key, but on the other table, it is the primary key. No, foreign keys are used to create relationships between tables and enforce referential integrity. No, which ensures that that particular data in one table is consistent with data in another table. No. So let us have an example. No? So I hope I could have an. Pero anyway, for example, consider a database with two tables. No, so let us think. No, kung ano yung table na yon, maybe we can call that as customers table. No, and an orders an orders table. No? Kasi merong, if you remember, di ba, meron tayong entities na customers and then we have an entity for orders. Okay? So the customers table might have a primary key field called customer ID. Di ba? So that is the primary key in the customers table. No? But, on the other hand, on the orders table naman, might have a foreign key field called customer's ID. Okay? That refers to the customer's ID field in the customer's table. No? Can you see the relationship? Diba? Yung isa, customer's ID, that is the primary key in the customer's table. No? But on the other table that we named as orders, no, that is a foreign key. No? So that meron silang relationship. Okay, so this relationship ensures that each order in the orders table is associated with a valid customer in the customers table. No? If you take a look on that. No? So foreign keys are important, no, in database design because they help ensure data, okay, consistency and integrity. No? Okay, by linking tables together in using foreign keys, it becomes now possible to enforce rules such as each order must have a valid customer or each product must belong to a valid category. No? Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng primary key and foreign keys. No? Now, we are doing this strategy because it helps us to prevent data inconsistencies and errors. 'Di ba sabi natin nung una nating slide or discussion earlier, we do not want inconsistencies, no? We want accurate, no? In terms of design, and then of course in terms of database, no? Because later on we do not want to have errors, inconsistencies later on, no? So in addition to enforcing referential integrity, foreign keys can also be used to create joins between tables, no? So dun sa SQL query natin, di ba? One of the examples that I can think of is to retrieve information about orders and their associated customers, no? So nagkakaroon tayo ng queries or yung sa SQL query natin, no? We can issue we might use, no, that is the right term, we might use a join between the orders and customers tables on the customer ID field, no? Okay, now, so let us repeat the concept, no? Foreign keys are a key concept in a database design, no? So this foreign key can be a can be a primary key, no? Can be a primary key on the other table itself. So, and they are used to create relationships between tables so that the referential integrity has been enforced. No? So, in addition, also, by using foreign keys, it becomes now possible to ensure data consistency and integrity, as well as to create complex queries and reports that span multiple tables. Kasi when we have a database, definitely it's not only one table. No? Saka ba makakita ng database one table? Diba? It should be multiple tables. No? Okay? Yan. So, okay, so data modeling during the systems analysis, no? So, medyo malapit na rin tayo matapos din, no? So data modeling, it is an important activity during systems analysis, no? So yun, nagkakaroon niya ng mga steps diyan, no? So key-based model, data model will be drawn first, no? A fully attributed data model will be constructed, etc., etc., no? So this particular thing, it involves designing a conceptual representation of the data that will be stored and processed by the information system being developed. The purpose of data modeling is to create a clear, structured view of the data that accurately reflects the needs of the organizations and the functions of the system. Paulit-ulit nating sinasabi, no? Needs of the organizations, the users, and of course, ngayon lang natin na ano dito, narinig that it could also be considered the functions of the system. No? Kasi it is related to the accuracy. No? Okay, are you still okay so far? Miss Sarah, Eileen, and Ben. Can you please type there on the chat box nga kung okay lang kayo? Okay pa ba kayo? Chat box yung gamitin natin. Okay pa po ba kayo? Alive pa sir, sabi ni Sarah. Are you related to Doc Willie Ong, Sarah? Buhay pa naman.
No, sir. Hindi rin po kay Bob Ong.
Okay, just kidding. Thank you. Kasi yung mga Chinese naman, no, kahit na you have the same family name, sometimes you're not connected, di ba? You're not relative then, no?
Hindi po, sir. Kay Bob Ong po, hindi rin.
Oo nga, something like that. Oo nga. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Since you're still alive, no, sabi ni Ben, let's continue, no? So yeah. Okay, so ayun, kaya nga meron tayong ano, di ba? ERD, no? Data modeling yan, you know, involves creating a graphical representation of the data using various techniques, no? Such as ERD, yung DFDs, and the data dictionary, no? So in ComSci, in IT, in thesis, in capstone, no? I do not know kung kayo bang first batch, Eileen, ng BA? Parang kayo ang first batch, di ba? Eileen, are you still there? Hindi ba kayo first batch? Sige. So, anyhow, ayun. So, yan, gamit na gamit yan, mga yan, graphical representations na yan. No? So, in their, not only in case studies, but in their ultimate project, in their final project, which is the capstone, and of course, the thesis for ComSci. No? So, kayo din, capstone ang tawag. No? So, these techniques help to visualize the relationships between data entities. Sometimes, no, kita mo na agad, no, when the students will present the ERD right away, no, makikita mo na if there is something wrong with the design. So the flow of the data through the system and the attributes are characteristics of the data. No? Yeah. So during systems analysis, guys, no? So data modeling helps to clarify and refine the requirements of the system. Okay? So nakikita mo agad yung what are the requirements of the system, no? And it also enables analysts to identify data entities and relationships and to develop a common understanding of how the data should be organized and processed. Okay? And then, of course, there are many things to consider also. So let us repeat the concept. No? It is an essential. No, nawawala sila. Ben, Eileen, and Sarah. Oh, wala na si Eileen. What happened to Eileen? Eileen, are you still there? Okay. Maybe siguro may problema tayo sa no, sa internet connectivity. I do not know also. Kahit sa akin medyo Anyway, yan. So, data modeling, this is an activity, no, that we can consider this as essential or important during this process or during the systems analysis. Because it helps us rather for the design to be accurate, clear, and structured, no, so that it could represent the data well, no. And then, of course, it will be stored and processed by the IS or the information system. Okay? All right. So these are the steps on how to construct data models. No? Yan. Meron mga steps yan. Second step, and etc. etc. May third steps, etc. No? Yan. Okay? But in general, no, when I try to research also with other authors, no, there are several steps nga, no. One is to identify the data entities. Okay. Actually, dun sa the one that here you is presenting, we have 3 steps there, no. But here we have also we have 5 steps, no. These are the following, no. Identify the data entities. Okay, determine the relationships between entities, no, define the attributes of each entity, no. So if you take notice, no, we need to be able to identify the entities. So for example, pwedeng ano ba yung naisip natin, customers, orders, products, employees, etc., no. So each data entity should have a clear definition and set of attributes that define its characteristics. Now, what are the relationships, no, of this particular entities, no. So pag na-identify na natin, we need to be able to determine how they are related to each other, diba? Diba sometimes, diba, pag may mga namimit tayong mga kaibigan, we should always parang the first thing that we need to do or magiging potential na kaibigan, we need to be able to relate with them, no. Okay? O tagasan ka ba? Ano bang apelyido mo? Ano ba, etc. Anong organization ka in the past? Okay? So that we could be able to relate, no? Okay? So for example, no, customers might place orders and orders might include multiple products, etc. No? And then this particular technique can be documented, no, or can be implemented in the ERDs, no, or the entity relationship diagrams. No? The third one is define the attributes of each entity. What are the characteristics of each entity? Like what we have done earlier, yung name, di ba? Maraming characteristics yan. Or maraming attributes yan. No? Okay? Ay, sorry, not name, but the customers. No? Customer, my name yan, addresses, gender, etc. No? When I asked Sarah if we if we can be able to include the ano nga ba yon? The favorite color? Sabi niya hindi. Definitely not. Kasi what's the purpose of that? No? We should be able to know what's the purpose of that characteristic. No? And then of course, refine the data model. No? So once we have the basic data model, ano siya, no? Parang continuous quality improvement. Now, once we have this data model, um, has been created, etc., no, we need to be able to know, no, refine, okay, or modify, alter what are the missing entities or relationships, no, by adjusting the attributes as necessary or as much as possible. Okay, so the next one is validate the data model, no? So yon, validating the data model by testing it. 'Di ba? Kanina sa tinanong ko si Sarah, no? So bakit natin kailangang i-test? Something like that, no? Okay, so she answered she answered naman with that, no? Yeah. So kailangan natin mag-validate, mag-test, etc., no, for us to for the benefits of the entire organization, no? Okay, this might involve working with end users to gather feedback and refine the data further. Okay? Now. All right, okay. Actually 6 steps pala. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, let's call. We are near na. Okay? So database, no? So we were talking about this naman na for the past 2 hours, no? Nakaka 2 hours na ba tayo? Almost, no? Okay? So thank you for staying, no, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Alam mo, ayan, isa sa mga masisipag kong student yan si Eileen in the past. Yan. So a database is an organized collection of data. No? So the definition that we have there, the DBMS is a specialized computer software available from computer vendors that is used to create, access, control, and manage the database. No? But let us discuss the kung yung a database, no? So tinuro yan na in the past, no? It is an organized collection of data that is stored and accessed electronically, no? So databases are used in a wide range of applications. So makikita natin yan sa Shopee, no? Yung online shopping websites, no? Including also, no, when we do RRLs, no? Yung review of related literature, no? So yung database typically includes syempre tables, no? So kaya hindi siya table kasi it should be 2 or more. Yan in a database kasi parang 'di ba, biruin mo in a database isa lang ang table. Parang we should not call that as a database no? These are collections of related data, no? Kunwari yung customers table, orders of tables, products table, and etc., no? So if you take notice, anong relationships nila or anong relationships nila or bakit sila nagiging related, 'di ba? Yung customers pwedeng mag-order, okay? Yung product, no? Order ng product, etc., no? Okay? Okay, and then of course, these fields or columns, it can describe the data attributes or the characteristics, no? Ayan. Meron tayong mga different databases, no? Meron tayong relational databases, no SQL databases, but we would not discuss this na accordingly. I'm just anong tawag doon? I'm just telling it to you in random, no? Meron tayong OOP databases and of course the hierarchical databases, no? Yan. So ayan, no? So there are advantages of databases, no, over traditional paper-based or manual data storage methods, no? But let me ask you, no, what do you think of an advantage of anong tawag dito? Of a database. No, pag sinabi kasi natin database, this can be considered electronic in nature din, no ba? But we can have, 'di ba, parang yung database in terms of paper, no? Yung parang anong tawag doon, yung drawer, etc. But here when we say database naman na it can be considered electronic, no? So what's the advantage for you guys now? Share your insights. What's the advantage of having a database over, no, paper-based or manual data storage methods? Okay, let's start with yan, tatatlo na lang kayo. Kaya magsagot na kayo. Let's start with Sarah.
Sir, for me, yung pinaka-advantage for me ng electronic database compared to traditional record keeping na papers is the accessibility. So when the data is electronically stored, I can access the data anywhere at any time.
Yes, all right. So it can be considered ubiquitous, no? Anytime, anywhere, no? Yeah, very good. And then not only that, so let me not answer first. No? So let me call on Eileen, baka kasi si Eileen eh. Eileen, go ahead.
Yung advantage po na electronic database is more or mas organized po yung data. So, hindi katulad na, hindi naman sa non-traditional, pero kasi mahirap paghanap. Yun. Part na rin na organized. And then yun yung accessibility. Since it's organized, mas madali natin hanapin kaysa magtalkal ng folders na ang dami record.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. No, yung accessibility, yung ease of use, no? Yeah, let's hear from Ben.
So having an electronic database rather than paper database. With an electronic database, it is more secure rather than a paper database since it is stored inside computer hardware. That's security, added security.
Yeah. All right, sige. Thank you very much. All of your answers naman are correct. No? Not only that, but 'di ba kunwari, just imagine this, no? Ang tawag dito, pen and paper, no? Tawag. Yeah, pen and paper, traditional paper-based or manual data storage method yung ginagamit mo, no? Okay naman, no? Very, ano ka naman, in terms of productivity, productive ka naman, sanay ka na kasi, di ba? Something like that. But imagine this, no? Biglang nagkasunog. Okay? Biglang nagkasunog. What would happen? Ano nangyari yan sa UP, yung mga researches nila? Mga researches nila for the last decades, no? Decades, no? Okay? Nakasunog yung isang college. Sunog ang researches nila. Okay, nakuha? Now, if these researchers, if these researchers were saved lang in a database, and then there was a backup method, okay, na ginawa, definitely these researchers were saved. Pero hindi ganun ang nangyari, no? So, dun lang sa story na yon, dun lang sa situation na yon, makikita na natin what really is the advantage of having an electronic database in comparison, no, dun uh, sa data storage method na manual, something like that. Okay? Yan. So databases, guys, no, as what I've mentioned, these are an essential component of many information systems and play a critical role in managing and organizing data, no? So the type of database chosen for a particular application will depend on the specific needs and requirements of the system. No? So let's take a look on this one. No? Yan. Okay? This is the typical modern day architecture. Yan. Okay? You have the IS, users and programmers, etc. I don't know kung nasan kayo dyan. No? Pero anyhow, lahat tayo nandiyan. Yan. Okay, so meron mga typical modern day architecture, no? So if you take notice, it involves multiple layers, no? Okay? And then of course, components that work together to manage and process data, no? So para bang meron kang system and then you have subsystems, etc., no? So sometimes the architecture typically includes the following layers, no? So meron kang data sources layers, okay? Ito yung mga yung that the system will use, no? Kung ano yung gagamitin ng system, no? Such as the databases, no? You have the files, sensors, even the APIs, no? That can include there. Then pwedeng on-premise, no? Or in the cloud, no? So pwedeng when we say on-premise, tawag dito, on-premise, dun sa mismong lugar na yon, or over the cloud. No? Okay, when we say cloud naman, it's not there. No? It's not there in the warehouse. It's not there on that particular location, but somewhere else. No? Yan. Okay? So, meron din tayong data integration layer yung mga in terms of data replication, synchronization, and of course, the migration. No? So let me just enumerate it. Ayan, data storage layer, data processing layer, meron din tayong data visualization layer, the data governance, and then, of course, the data operations layer. No? Ayan. Now, when we have the architecture itself, no, if you take a look on this, no, it's one of the characteristics is to be flexible, no, scalable and modular, no. So when we say scalable, guys, no, so imagine we have only 1,000, for example, on this particular architecture, we have 1,000 users of this. Okay, on this particular system, we have 1,000 users. Okay? Now, imposible naman na for the next 10 years, 1,000 users ka pa rin. Tama ba? Okay? So you try to think of that. That in the future, maybe my users would be increased. Okay? Yung mga users ko might be doubled, no? Tripled, etc. No? So what do I need to do? So that's why you need to be able to think of the scalability. No? Okay? So the architecture should also be able to evolve over time as the data ecosystem changes. And then of course, not only the users but the technologies, no? Diba? Ngayon, meron tayong Windows 11. But in the next 10 years, we do not know, baka Windows 21 na yan. Something like that, di ba? Okay? Or maybe yung mga applications natin or yung mga televisions natin, hindi na lang no? Hindi na lang mga smart, etc., no? Okay? We could be able to travel, no? Something like that, no? Using our television, etc. We really do not know. Okay? All right. So, logical data model naman is a diagram that depicts the relationships between different data entities. Yan, tingnan nyo. Different data entities, yung customer, order, yung ordered product, and then yung product. No? Okay? Now, it helps to provide a visual representation like the ERDs, no, of the data and its structure, which can be used to understand the relationships between different entities and attributes. No? Okay? So a logical data model, guys, no, is typically used during the analysis and design phases of a project to help understand the requirements for a new system or to improve on existing one. No? So, ito yung example natin. No? Okay? So, in this example, the model includes 4 entities. No? Yan. Okay? Yung order, yung customer, ordered product, and the product itself. No? Okay? So, the lines connecting the entities represent, no, the relationships between them. The model shows that the customer can place, okay, multiple orders. All right? And each order can contain multiple products. Okay? Now, yan. Okay, so, ayan yung database schema na tinatawag natin, no? So, as what I've said, the database schema, this is a blueprint that describes the structure of a database. Okay? Sabi ko kanina, di ba, pag nagpapatayo tayo ng bahay or nagpuputak tayo ng building, etc., no? Meron tayong blueprint. Okay? So, the same thing with this. It defines how the data has been organized, how the data entities and their attributes are related. Kitang-kita mo na agad doon right away. And how the data is stored in the database. No? The database schema is typically created during the design phase of the database project and is implemented using a database management system. Okay? Yan. So, pag sinabi nating data schema, meron tayong table, columns, primary keys, foreign keys, relationships, and constraints. No? So when we say constraints, these are rules that are applied to the data stored in the database. No? So they can be used to enforce data integrity, ensure consistency, and of course, restrict the type of data that can be stored in a column. Yan. Okay, so it is a critical component, no, for a database project, no, for when we say database schema, no. Ayan. Okay? So, other considerations, no? So, yan, the denormalization, this is the process of adding redundant data to a database to improve performance. Meron din tayong choices of storage formats, okay, yung file organizations natin, backup recovery, no? Important din yan kasi backups are used to create a copy of the database, no? Yun. Okay? Kaya nga 'di ba nung nagkasunog, no, for example yung ang hawak natin is yung paper manual organization of papers. Sabi lang nagkasunog, no? So wala na. But when we have electronic database, no, and then it is being backup, wala tayong magiging problema later on. Maybe we lose that physical devices, but definitely we cannot be able to lose that particular file or that particular database. Of course, the last one, let me reiterate to you, since I'm teaching, information assurance and security, okay, the security of data, no? So data security or the security of data, no? So data security, this is an aspect that can be considered critical, no? In terms of database management. So it involves ensuring that the data is protected from unauthorized access. Actually, no, we do not need to protect the data already, no? Kung if we are sure, no, kung authorized lahat ang mag-a-access nito. Pero that is not the reality, di ba? Di ba? Kayo guys, iwan niyo yung phone niyo sa klase iwan niyo yung phone niyo na naka-open. What do you think will happen, Sarah?
Mapupuno, sir, yung gallery with selfies.
Okay. Buti kung ganon, di ba? What if biglang pumunta sa Facebook mo, di ba? Biglang sabihin niya, Superman ako, di ba? Superwoman ako. Di, so akala ay ng mga relatives mo na ikaw ang nag-post doon, no? Pero in reality, it is not, no? So, okay? So yun, no? Unauthorized acts. Bakit ba natin pinoprotektahan yung ating data from unauthorized people, no? Because we do not want our data to be modified, altered, or worst case scenario, deleted. Okay? Yan, no? So, common security measures, no, include authentication. We want to make it sure na yung nag-a-access ng database or system ay siya talaga yon, no? And then authorization. That particular person who is accessing the database should be authorized to do so. If not, wala siyang karapatan to access it. Pag nakapag-access siya doon, pwede natin siyang i-demanda using the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. Of course, okay, we need to be able to encrypt, no, the data. Meaning to say, even though they could be able to access it, they would not understand. Okay? Yun. Authentication involves verifying the identity of users. Yung authorization naman determines what actions users are allowed to perform. Minsan yung authorization, no, ikaw authorized ka lang to be on the second floor. No? Wala nang iba. No? The same thing with system. Ikaw, ito lang folder na ito ang pwede mong i-access. No? While other folders, hindi mo na nakikita. Okay? Yan. Of course, you cannot be able to read without the decryption key yung mga files na yon. No? Yan. May mga other controls and mechanisms na ang tawag pwede nating sabihin, yung auditing, monitoring, and of course, yung disaster recovery plan. Okay? Yan. Alright, that would end our lecture for today. Sarah and Eileen and Ben. Yan. 4 na lang tayo, no? Out of 9, no? 9 ba tayo, Eileen? 9 ba tayo? Okay. Yan. So, 2, 4, 6, 7. 7 pala kayo, guys, no? Pang-8 ako. Alright, so I'm sorry to say, but I will be marking Borja as absent. Okay? And Kalugas as absent also. Ayan. Gardose. So, sayang, no? Hindi siya masyadong nag-stay. Let me mark her absent. And then, Angel Gose. Let me mark him absent. Okay? And then, of course, yun yung natira, no? Si Ben, present. Ben, are you still there?
Yes, sir. Here po.
Okay, very good. And Madrio, Eileen?
Madriya here.
Yeah, Madrio here. All right. And of course, Sarah May Ong.
Here, sir.
All right, very good. Okay, so here's what I will do now for the next few hours and then next few days. But first of all, I'm sorry, I was not able to submit your grades, no, accordingly. Pero if you were able to answer naman the activities that I've activated, that I have activated last time around, okay, my grades naman kayo accordingly, no? Ayan, it so happened na ano lang talaga, no, for the past weeks I got busy with my not main job, but uh, with my other connection kasi just to give you an information, I'm a full-time uh, faculty member of one city college near near Mandaluyong. So manghula na lang kayo kung anong city ang near sa Mandaluyong. So doon ako nagwo-work. So kaya lang may mga activities kasi na we are required to attend physically. Okay? So anyhow, what I will do in the next few days or few hours is for me to complete your grades already and submit it to the dean's office, no? So do not worry if you were able to answer it. Well, my grades naman kayo accordingly, no? And then one of these days we will meet physically face to face para naman may chance tayo for us to see each other, no? Okay. Supposedly ngayon sana, kaya lang hindi ako nakapag-coordinate with the room or with the laboratory, no? In JRU. Okay? So hopefully I could be able to meet you in person in the next few weeks. All right? Do you have any questions, clarifications on our discussions for today?
Sir, for discussion, all good naman po. Ano lang, sir, clarify ko lang po, we will have a prelim grade reflected naman po, no?
Yes, definitely. Ano lang, it was my fault. Sorry. Ano lang, na late lang siya, no? Pero reflected naman 'yon definitely. Pero
Okay.
definitely you have a grade if you were able to answer it. Yung mga as Eileen coordinated to you. Yan. Tapos midterm, ano na tayo, no? The usual schedule na tayo. May ayusin lang ako sa Canvas, everything, no? And then of course your mga activities natin. All right? Sige, siguro wala na tayong questions, clarifications. Unless otherwise you have pa.
All good na po, sir.
Good na. All right, sige. Nasa bahay na ba kayo?
Po.
Nasa bahay na ba kayo, Sarah?
Sa bahay lang po ako, sir. I think si Eileen po yung galing sa campus.
Eileen, nasa bahay ka na ba? Or apartment? Bahay na, alright? Si Ben nasa bahay na yan. Alright, sige. So, panatag
Yes,
na
sir.
yung loob ko, nasa bahay na kayo. No? So, nasa bahay din naman ako. Sige, that's it for today, guys. And then, recorded pala to, no? Siyempre, with your permission, naka-record to. So, I will just share it to the group siguro. Aileen, meron ba tayong GC? Meron tayong GC, di ba? Pinagawa kita ng GC. Sige, anyhow, you just activate it, no? Activate it. Medyo choppy ka. Eileen, medyo chubby ka na. Alright, sige. Alright, guys. Sarah, Eileen, and Ben, thank you very much for your time. And then I'll see you next week, maybe virtually or physically, siguro. Sige, that's it for today. Thank you very much and enjoy your night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
Okay.